So hello, everybody out there in YouTube, because this doesn't really go to Facebook, just YouTube. So, and the podcast, we have iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, Podbean, and a couple of other ones. This is the Demetra K Show, where we promote Black love, knowledge, and understanding of all things that go on in the Black community to make us an even better people, with the emphasis on even, because we are great people, but we can always improve, don't you think? So sitting next to me, I have the recovering Democrat, also known as Donovan Saadiq. And today we are going to be talking about that of Steve Harvey. He was on a podcast called Earn Your Leisure, and he disclosed that he had quite a bit of money taken from him over quite a few years. So we're going to get into that and, a money conversation. And how we can just do better financially, right? And so anyway, before we get started, Donovan, what say you?
All right, good morning, people. It is March 19th, 2022.
20th. It's the 20th. No, you're right. Let me shut up.
Okay, yeah. Your mind is spinning right now, so let me, because I was reading right off the computer. So it's the 19th, Saturday at March 19th, 2022. Welcome to guys. Thank you guys for coming in. I know it's Saturday. You guys could be doing a lot of other things. You guys got baseball practice, soccer games, all that good stuff. So we're happy to have you here. But do us a favor. Please like, share, subscribe, and even join the channel, as things are going to be heating up as we get closer and closer to the midterm elections. A lot of stuff that the Democrats have done. Real quick politically, last night, the House passed the Crown Act. The Crown Act is a bill to not discriminate against people, mostly African Americans, against their hair and how they form it and how they style it, right? Another thing that Jim Crow Joe Biden is trying to do to show Black people, see, we're doing stuff for you. See, we did the Crown Act, we did all this, but it still has to get through the Senate. So do us a favor, if you are so inclined, we have a Cash App, a PayPal, a Venmo. And you can also hear us on Podbean, iHeartRadio, Speaker, Spotify, and Tide on all of those platforms. So if you guys get a chance, go ahead and do that. And if you can, just go ahead and donate, because it does cost a little something to do and get this information out.
Cool. Yeah, so I was hearing the noise and I was like, what is it? But it's actually on your end, Donovan. It's like something like that. So I was kind of like wondering. So I don't hear it now because you're on mute. So that's perfect. So anyway, y'all, let's go ahead and get into it. So Steve Harvey, who is a media mogul, for lack of better words, was on a podcast called Earn Your Leisure. And on this particular show, I guess it's two brothers. One name is Rashad and Troy. And they talk about financial things that go on behind the scenes with entertainers and athletes and different things like that. They talk about different strategies, I guess, to growing and earning money and everything in between you can think of with money, right? And so on this particular podcast, Steve Harvey disclosed the following. Check it out. Oops. Hold on, let's again. I don't know why we can't hear it. There we go. Can y'all hear it? Okay, hold on a second. Hold on. Technical difficulties.
Always happens. No big deal.
I wonder why it's doing that. It was working before. Let's see. Hold on. No, still not working. Okay, hold on. I got y'all. Hold on.
Got it. Good.
Yeah, Donna, that's something on your end, whatever it is. I didn't know.
Oh, no. I know what the noise is. Go ahead.
Okay, hold up.
We have a quinceañera going down as well outside. So.
Nah, it's like a going on in here, whatever it may be. Because I don't hear it now. Yeah, now I hear it.
It's probably in the computer.
I just thought y'all should know. Okay, y'all, let's get down to business. Sorry about this, but I got y'all. I have to do it the old school way. Here we go.
My accountant died, and a girl that worked for him called my lawyer and said, we have a problem. She had found on the floor all my tax forms for 7 years, signed and with the checks stapled to them. So I'm thinking, I was signed and I was stapled the checks. Well, they were cashing the checks, keeping the money, and not turning in the tax form.
You didn't know who the check was being made out to.
Oh, to the government.
So how did they cash it?
Well, they didn't cash it. They took the money out of the account that matched the exact, because I wasn't watching it
So
like
you could
that.
just see
I just 100,000, 600,000 deducted.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it's the check. Little did I know, it was some people taking the money out.
For 7 years?
For 7 years.
How much money did that?
I ended up owing 22 million.
So as you heard him say there, he ended up owing 22 million over a 7-year time span due to somebody stealing from him, for lack of a better word. So as I said, his accountant died and some girl was supposed to be managing the money, but instead of sending the checks to the bank that he had written to the IRS, the checks were there and they were, so obviously they had access to his account. So they would go into his bank account and withdraw the money that was put onto the specific checks. So this happened over a 7-year time. So I guess in 7 years, he had not paid his taxes, but he thought that he did. So instead of them paying the IRS, they personally took the money for themselves. And then he ended up with a $22 million IRS debt, right? So for what I understand, Steve Harvey is worth over $200 million, which is, quite a bit of money.
Plus his trap queen.
Steve Harvey, is like I said, a entertainment mogul. He's on Family Feud. He has his own judge show. He has his radio show, and he has a whole host of things you could think of. So, it's feasible that he is worth that much money, right? Okay, so we're going to get into a lot of questions about that and how we can avoid that situation. Not that we have $200 million yet, but it's coming, right? Speaking into existence. But off the rip, Donovan, I want your opinion on what you heard.
Well, what I heard is basic ignorance. Now, when I was paying taxes, when I was in the workforce, when I would go to my tax person, even though I was signing them this, when it came down to actually filing the tax and mailing it to the IRS, I had them give that back to me so that I know that it was done. I'm not saying that it didn't happen to Steve Harvey or anything like that, but this is what I'm saying. You can't put your faith in other people when we live in a world where people do these type of things, especially to athletes and entertainers and stuff like that. How many times are they going to slap you in the face with the limp dick before you realize that you have to take care of yourself? And that's a hard lesson. $22 million? $22 million? Okay, so if you're getting a tax preparer to do your taxes, let them do that. Let them prepare the taxes. But you, once it's all complete and they call you and they say, hey, everything's done. Okay, we're good to go. Take your ass down there, go get a package and mail it yourself and make sure that the check is in the mail like it's supposed to be. And then there's no way in hell I'm going to authorize anybody but myself to go into my account. Ain't no way.
So absolutely. So yeah, I think that's initially what people would think. That's what I thought. First of all, I get it. You can have a lot of money, and in certain cases, you just appoint different people to take care of your money. And it's understandable, right? Most people who have a little bit of money even have some sort of a financial advisor or somebody who is moving money one way or the other. But to have somebody have access to your account, and you also made them, and he said a girl or some girl. And so it's like, well, who was this girl or whoever, you said that she was, that you allowed her to go in and out of your bank account to the tune of being able to do that to you. So in essence, it sounds like she stole, or the people stole $22 million from you. So my thing is, why would you be so free in allowing somebody just to be able to dive in and out of your account? And I'll tell y'all, to be honest with you, there's certain things that I do not allow to go on with my account. Now, some things I have come out of my accounts automatically just to make it easier. There might be a discount or something like that attached to it, like with your insurance or something like that. But that's usually about it, right? I don't allow everybody, whether I'm paying bills or this, that, and the other, to just freely come into my account and take money out of it, because a lot of times you'll find that it's hard sometimes to stop them from doing it. You got to do this written permission and that, and talk to this person. And in the meantime, you got all these hands in your account. So I'm one of those people. I like to send the money out opposed to you coming into my account. Now, again, back to Steve Harvey or anybody like him that has so much money. I remember one thing Oprah said that I really never forgot. She says, I don't care how much money I have, I'm never going to allow somebody just to freely write checks without me signing them. Nobody but me is signing my checks. And she says, I have a lot of money and I'm going to make sure that I keep it, because she says that she heard over time different people who got taken to the bank or money taken from their bank by people they trusted. And it turned out to the tunes of millions of dollars. So she said that wasn't going to be me. So I thought that was very good advice. But yeah, just like Steve, I mean, wow. Well, I could get 1, maybe 2 years, but 7? How?
And that's what I'm saying. Why didn't he audit the people that are taking care of his stuff? I do that all the time. And then sometimes you change up your tax people, and to be on the safe side, you get so comfortable with a person. And unfortunately, it's just like our family members, and God bless them. The main people that bring you down in most situations is your family members, and they don't mean to. And what I'm saying is, a good example is like this. Let's say you have some rental property and you got cousin Shaniqua and her kids need a place to live. And you say, oh, this will be a good idea. It's family and stuff like that. But guess what? Shaniqua gets in there the first 3 months, she's paying rent. Then all of a sudden it's half the rent. Then it's no rent. Then you got to get her out, and you know what I mean? But they, God bless them, they don't mean to do it, but they do it. And that's, so if we know our family sometimes has a propensity to do these things, why wouldn't we think somebody who's not related to us, and definitely we pay for their services, wouldn't do it to us?
Yeah, well, like for me, I believe in keeping it in the family as much as possible. And so luckily I have a pretty smart family. And so there's things that I have my family members do in regards to some of my finances and things like that, because I trust them. But I get what you're saying about, some people hiring different people who may not have the experience or the right, I guess, the fiduciary responsibility, which means that they're supposed to take care of the people that they're working for. Maybe they don't have their best interest at heart, but I believe in keeping it in the family. But even if you're keeping it in the family, you want to do some checks and balances. I don't think you should be so ignorant to what's going on behind the scenes, especially in regards to your money, right? I get it. Some people have so much money and so many assets. They're like, I got somebody and they're taking care of it. I'm good. I'm just going to be doing this, that, and the other. But it's like, how many times do we have to keep hearing stories of people say, I just didn't know. I didn't know that all these years they were taking all this money and I was in debt to the IRS. Because one thing the IRS will say, well, yeah, you had a tax person that was supposed to be doing it, but ultimately the responsibility is on you because your name is on the taxes. You made the money and it is up to you to pay them. And so he's lucky, I would think, that in 7 years, he didn't go to jail. Now, this is the other part too, because you would think, all right, 7 years, how could he not know? Well, it sounds like whoever was over his money, whoever it was shielding him from that, right? So they would have to have had the capacity to receive the letters and stuff from the IRS for him not to know. So when he says that, a lot of people are like, nah, that's BS. How could you not know? But it's very possible for him not to know if he is totally removed from the dynamics of his money and everything connected to it, which is never a good idea. You should always be asking questions. Okay, did the taxes get paid? Okay, let me see the receipt. Let me see the correspondences. Let me see where they accepted my taxes. Let me see where the checks were. All of that, right? Like, don't be so checked out to where you end up in trouble.
Right. I mean, and if you don't want to even go through that, you can contact the IRS and they will verify, via letter. They don't talk to you on the phone like that with your personal information. They will send you a letter and it will show you all of your tax years up until the current year and say, yeah, you paid here, you paid here, you paid here. Oh, sorry, Mr. Harvey, we didn't receive your 2022 yet, but but when we do, we will inform you and let you know. You know what I mean? So, I just think it's kind of crazy that people will let other people. You wouldn't let your brother or or a homeless person off the street or your good friend handle your finances, but you're going to let Mr. Goldstein do it and think they're not going to rob you.
Yeah, I mean, and I think this thing is a lot of times people feel like I pay, because this is the thing. I used to be in financial services, so I know a little bit about it. The thing is, and I don't know what Steve was thinking, because admittedly I didn't see the whole podcast, so maybe he spoke a little bit more to it. But a lot of times when you hire a financial professional, you're thinking, okay, there's laws and regulations and rules and all that tied to their licenses. So I don't know if this particular person was licensed in his case, but they're held to a standard of law to do the right thing by people's money. And so maybe they're thinking, oh, well, if they steal from me, they'll go to jail, and this, that, and the other, they'll get in trouble by the state. And so they're thinking a lot of these things, perhaps, but that's not necessarily true. I mean, a crook is not going to care about the law. And they probably saw, okay, well, we got away with it last year. Let's try it again this year. Oh, well, he ain't saying nothing. Let's do it again. And so 7 years later, somehow he gets wind that he owes the IRS all of this money, but never assume that the person that you have in charge of your money, or anything for that matter, that they're just doing what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, you are ultimately the manager of your brand. You are the CEO of whatever it is you have, whether it's you, the brand, whether it's a company, whatever, you're the CEO. And so CEOs, CFOs, chief financial officer, whatever, they get everybody together and say, okay, I am the business. You're managing this. You're managing that. Open your books, and I want your receipts. I want to see how you're doing. I want to make sure that you're doing your job. But it just makes me wonder too, who was this woman that was he gave so much liberty to manage his money for that long and never even said, hey, so how's it going?
Giving him the benefit of the doubt. Okay, like Donald Trump right now, he's using that excuse himself, when it comes to his tax problems. Oh, I didn't know, or whatever. You're inflating the assets, you're down. But what is the government telling him? Ultimately, he's responsible. He might not have said, oh, inflate the assets or deflate the assets, whatever, but it's his company. His name is on the stuff. See, so, but because he's white, he might get away with it, white privilege and all that other good stuff. But that's a different story. Okay, so in the likes of Oprah, if you make that much money, why not audit the auditor? You know what I mean? I would have put, okay, here's my tax preparer, but I'm going to hire another person, which would be cheaper than losing $22 million to watch that person.
Well, and ultimately have knowledge of your own purse and your finances and your bank account. And let's bring it down to a human. I won't say human, we're all human, but an average level, if you will. Now, when I say average, I mean people who are making not as much as that, right? There's a lot of people who have no idea what their bank account is doing. They have no idea about their cash flow in regards to their budget or any of that kind of stuff, right? And so they just spend. And then when it comes down to brass tacks, like, okay, I need to pay the rent or pay my car note. It's like, oh, I don't have it. Well, you didn't know you were spending so much money? No, I had no idea. I just thought it was there. It's like, well, when is the last time you looked at your bank account? I don't know. I just assumed it was there, right? And believe it or not, for a lot of people, it is scary to look at their bank account because, if you have the money or you don't have the money, let's say, it can give you a little anxiety that you have this much bills, but you have that much money. And so looking into your bank account is like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
I'll close my eyes and it'll go away.
Yeah. And so some people just don't look at it, but you have to know what you are working with. And a lot of times, and I'm going to tell you guys this is where I'm going to be transparent here. So I don't have a lot of services and things that I pay for as far as like streaming services and things like that. But I wanted to read an audiobook for free. This was almost 2 years ago. I wanted to read an audiobook for free. And I thought that I just did the 7-day or 30-day trial or whatever it is. And so I did a fine-tooth combing of my bank account one day. And do you know it was $15 coming out of my account from that audiobook for 2 years? I think it was actually a little bit more than that. Anyway, I had to call Amazon and say, oops, I made a mistake. And they gave me my money back. But it just really reiterated to me that I needed to be more diligent about what goes in and out of my account. So imagine if you have millions of dollars and you have somebody managing your account and they're taking, a 10,000 here and 10,000 there. You might not notice it because it's not that much money in the larger scheme of things, but bringing it back down to an average level. I mean, the same thing is true for us. Like my example with the $15, it wasn't a big deal here and there, but when I added it all up, I was like, well, damn, that's a car note, But we should all be aware of what we have in our account and who's doing what in our account and what we're spending, right? Like it's just to be simple knowledge, I would think.
Well, even though we joke about this all the time, like when I talk about Deanna shouldn't be charging this on the card, charging on that. I'm letting you guys, letting them know that I watch what's going on. I'm watching where that money's going, what she's spending it on, and stuff like that. And but that's called due diligence of money. You shouldn't be guilty to audit your own money. I hate, and again, I go back to family members. That's what they do. Because one thing we can't do, you can't divorce who you're related to.
You can't. You
can do it legally, but you're still related. You know what I mean by that. So, but that's the thing about family is, and you see families get, what is one of the main things that break families up? Fighting over money.
A big piece of chicken.
Right. Yeah. Daddy, the big piece of chicken is missing out of the refrigerator when mama told you not to take it, whatever. But it's always the money. And, you're trying to help out and you're trying to uplift. Now, like you, Demetra, you have a close-knit type family where you guys can trust each other. I also have a close-knit type situation with my family. So me, my mom, and my brother, which is my inner family, we all bank at the same institution. And it makes it easier. So if my brother needed money, I can transfer it. My mom needs money, I can transfer it. Or we need money from her. You know what I mean? And we're all kind of intertwined, right? But outside of those two people, those are the only two people that I know of in my life that I will give them money and won't have to worry about it not being paid back to me, or I'll get it down the road or whatever. Do you see what I'm saying? You just can't just willy-nilly give money out to people and, expect good things, are always going to happen to you, because they don't. Like I said, if I'm hiring an outside firm, a tax people of Goldstein and Steinberg, I damn sure in my mind am thinking these people are here to rip me off. Yeah, they're here to do me a service, but it's up to me to make sure they're doing what I paid them to do.
Well, you want to, as Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. Yeah, I trust you because I'm paying you the money to do this service for me, but I'm also going to verify that you are doing what I asked you to do. I mean, I often go get my wife, and when I was in California, I would take it to a car wash and have them washing and stuff, but they have a different system out here in Texas. But when I would sit and watch people get their cars washed, what do you think people would do? When they hold up the thing and say your car is ready, people will go, they'll walk around and make sure there's no spots on the windows and that everything, the tires are done. So it's like people will do that for their car at the car wash, but you won't do that for somebody who is managing your money, right? And the same thing is true for the doctor. A lot of times we go to the doctor and they tell us something. Oh, this is wrong with you. Y'all know how many times I've had a doctor try to tell me something was wrong with me.
And they want to put you on the pills.
Yeah, or just to, really to give me medication and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I was taught by my mama and my daddy, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I want to back that up with something. So like one time I had a doctor try to tell me that I was pre-diabetic. Now, mind you, I'm at my tip-top shape. I'm exercising sometimes 3 times a day. I'm very strict vegan and all of this other stuff. Right now, just so happens I knew what the diabetic numbers were. And so she said that it was, I think it was, 6 point something. I don't know, whatever the number is at the time. And I said, well, that's not pre-diabetic. And she goes, well, we just kind of label it pre-diabetic just to let you know. I said, nah, you don't take that up out of my chart. Because for one, if I go apply for more life insurance, that is going to come up and they're going to label me and rate me as a pre-diabetic. And I said, so you need to take that out of my account. And I told her I'm a vegan, blah, 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 blah. And so she says, you know what? You're right. You're right. And they took it out of my chart. But imagine if I fell prey to the appeal to authority, which means that she's a doctor, and because she's the doctor, she must know what she's talking about. So imagine if I allowed her to label me a pre-diabetic, I would, have a whole host of issues when I'm being rated for insurances and all of that. And then let's say I would, on the other end, took the medicine that she might have tried to prescribe me. I'd be taking something I didn't need, right? And I've never had that issue. When my numbers are ran for my, my medical charts, I've never had that issue again. And so it made me realize, okay, for one, I'm not saying all doctors are about the hustle, but a lot of them are. Let's put this ignorant Negro on some medicine so we can, get more money from the pharmaceutical companies, not really caring about my situation. But I say all that to say it's up to you to care about your situation by getting the right knowledge and information. That way you can have those conversations with your doctors and your finance managers and all of that. So they'll say, okay, I'm not dealing with a dummy here.
Yeah, and my mom always told me that, when you go to the doctor, you ask questions and you research for yourself, because sometimes they'll prescribe something to you when there could be something cheaper or more organic that you can get. Like, being a military member, the VA always gets the organic drugs, because it's cheaper, but it does the same exact thing. But if you're like, and I know it's in my private doctor, they always want to prescribe me the most expensive.
I mean, like generic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, always do that. But let me play advocate with Steve Harvey. Now, we know Steve Harvey's past. This man's been married 3 times. He calls himself a social guru and a relationships expert and all this other stuff, which I think is totally ridiculous. He's married to a trap queen. Now, I'm just going to say this from my understanding of Steve Harvey. $22 million is missing. This man worked very hard to get where he's at. I'm not going to take that away from him. But is that $22 million missing because he laundered it with his trap queen woman money? You got to think about that stuff, because his current wife was married to big drug dealers down in, I think, Tennessee. And, you got to launder this money. Or was it, I just can't fathom a man of that so-called smarts is just going to lose $22 million and talk about, oh, there was this girl that just, told me. I find it hard to believe. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, but I just find that hard to believe. I think he's a little smarter than the average bear.
Well, and I'm one of those people, it's not what you know or what you think, it's what you can prove. And so I kind of would be careful of going and saying maybe his trap queen, and them laundered the money, because we have no inside knowledge of that. Or if Marjorie, I've heard those things. I don't know how true any of that stuff is, but we don't know, if she's dealing in drugs or laundering the money. It sounds.
Again, like I said, I'm just saying, I'm using it as an example in regards to, as smart as this man is and where he came from to be where he's at, I find it very, very hard to believe $22 million would just disappear. And
over 7 years, though.
Yeah, it's still 20. Come on now.
I get.
We got some black folks that work so hard. Steve Harvey, from my understanding of his history, he is so tight with his money, you could put a lump of coal in his ass and it comes out a dime.
The other thing too is Steve Harvey has gone bankrupt like 2 other times. So maybe, having that much money does come a lot of responsibility and a learning process. But I'm just saying, for me personally, I don't want to go out and say that perhaps, some nefarious activities going on with it. Because my thing is this too, Steve Harvey is worth, depending on what source you believe, is worth $200 to $280 million. And so for them to go off and launder $22 million and whatever they're doing it with drugs or whatever, I just think that kind of is like here, it doesn't really jive in a larger scheme of things. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And so I say that to say, I think we should be careful when we're throwing that kind of stuff out there. And I think too, Donovan, is when we say, oh, well, maybe something crazy happened with it, like the laundering, it really does take away from there are people out there who have had people steal money from them that they trusted and they didn't know. So I guess the larger message here is people should be aware of who's doing what with not just your money, but with your health, with your car, your everything, right? You are the manager of you and everything attached to you. Now, are they doing something nefarious? I don't know. Haven't heard that they are. But from the message that came out of his mouth, that somebody he trusted to pay his taxes did not for a span of 7 years, I think that's probably where the conversation should be.
Right, exactly. And like I said, I'm going by the history of what I know and that relationship with that woman and all this other stuff. Like I said, I'm not saying it's true. I never said that it's true. I'm just saying speculating and knowing how some of the criminal underworld moves and how some rich people move. Look at Donald Trump and how he's moving. All I'm saying is when the normal person like you and I, yeah, that's kind of, but rich people move like this. These people sometimes are gangsters. I'm not saying it's Steve Harvey, but again, I have to ask using my common sense. Okay, he's married to a trap queen. Money
She's
was
still a trap queen. She's married to a man who's worth almost potentially.
Well, no. Just because you don't do that type of activity, to me, and this is my opinion, not Demetrius, my opinion, doesn't mean you lose the title. You are what you are.
Well, let me play devil's advocate here, since we've gone off to a different avenue here. Let me play devil's advocate. Where does redemption come into the play? Where does redemption? Does this woman ever get to be redeemed if she was indeed a trap queen?
Well, I don't know where the redemption comes in for her. I'm very sure wherever it is, good for her. But when I look at people who delve in that type of lifestyle that destroyed many families and lives, as far as I'm concerned, you're going to hold the title. You destroyed a lot of lives in the lifestyle that you did. You can get all the redemption you want. See, and that's the thing. Everybody always thinks, oh, you should automatically forgive people, whatever. No. I'm not into the forgiving game because I'm not the one to come to for forgiveness. All I'm saying is, if that was the lifestyle you led and you jumped into that realm, just because you go to church and got married and got saved doesn't change what your past is. Can I hold your past against you? Absolutely not. I shouldn't moving forward. But the fact of the matter is you shouldn't get mad because I'm calling out the fact of what you did in your past. It is your past. Just own it.
So I want you to think about the very worst. You ain't got to tell us what it is. The very worst thing you've ever done in your life, whatever that may be. Now imagine every time somebody brings up Donovan, they say, "Oh, Donovan that did that. Oh man." So would you feel like you were worthy of redemption at that point? Should people keep bringing that up?
Well, the thing is, because I know myself, and if that's the lifestyle that I led in the past, okay, I'll give you a better example. Like everybody knew me as this super duper military guy. I was down for the cause, right? And you know that I'm super military. It's on my wall. Everybody's like, oh man, that guy was just hardcore. Go get it, right? Now look at where I'm at today. Do I run from my past? Absolutely not. Yes, I did do that. Yes, I did. And I take that story and I make it either a cautionary tale or a tale of a positivity. But that's what I'm saying. We get these people who, let's say they've done nefarious things in their past and they've got redemption. And they know they have redemption. But like I said, we don't know their personal life. A lot of people don't know they have redemption. But let's say they know it. They got redemption. Don't run from your past. Use that as a story to help other people maybe not go down that path.
Has she ever said she was a trap queen?
No, but her ex-husband and her husband's cousin, who she has 2 children for, have put her in that aspect.
And where are these gentlemen?
I think one of them is still in prison and the other's out now.
So these are 2 prisoners who said that she was a trap queen.
Yeah, one she was married to and they're cousins.
Okay, so this is where I kind of want to go with this too. I don't know a whole lot about Marjorie, if that's how you say it. I don't know a whole lot about her at all. I've heard maybe she's a trap queen or whatever that is. I don't know. But my thing is, how does she get roped into Steve Harvey's taxes being delinquent for 7 years?
No, what I'm saying is, like I was saying previously, look at how rich people that have that kind of money roll. It is not unusual and it is feasible that money is being laundered. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying, look at how they roll. Look at how Donald Trump did his taxes and his properties. If you and I had even did a smidgen in that, we would be in the federal prison right now.
But we don't know that Steve Harvey and Marjorie did either.
No, we don't. What I'm saying is I see a correlation difference in how rich people move. That's why you have money in politics. They've legalized bribery to politicians. This is how they move. The criminality in it, this is how they move. I'm not saying that's what he's doing. All I'm saying is using my common logic and aspect, $22 million
over 7 years.
That's over 7 years still. That's still a lot of money from a person who comes from meager beginnings. I just find it hard to believe, as smart as Steve Harvey is, that he could just overlook $22 million when he has family members. And I went to one of his concerts, and he was joking about how tight he is with his money, especially when it comes to his own family. So why would he even do that with people that are...
Just because you tight with your money doesn't always mean that you know how to manage your money. I mean, the man went bankrupt twice. So
no, I agree. And Trump went bankrupt how many times?
Yeah. So I mean, to me, I don't know. It's just and again, it was over 7 year time span. And I say that, and I'm talking about my situation with Amazon. So in my bank account, $15 a month, I probably wouldn't notice that unless I go do an analysis, of my bank account, which it did. And so I'm saying that to say, and he said that the money was missing out of his account because he thought that because the people took the exact amount of the money that was written every year, he thought that's where the money went. This is what he's saying, okay? So I can see where a person with as much money as he has would probably think, okay, well, it sounds plausible. I wrote the check, even though the check was never cashed, it was sitting there. They took that money out. So he might not have noticed that over a 7 year. You can't tell that man what he might have noticed out of his bank account. We have heard this story time and time and time again of very wealthy people, athletes, and a whole bunch of people. I mean, hell, the most infamous episode of that is 30 for 30 broke on, I think it's ESPN.
Yeah, within 5 years. Yeah.
Talk about all the money that was laundered from them, from family and, financial advisors and a whole bunch of people. So the point that I'm making, the point that I'm making is you can have so much money and not really be connected to where it is going and all of that, and have that money be missing and you not notice it because that money over a small or a large period of time is not hurting you. Say, for example, if I make $2,000 a month and $1,500 come up missing, I'm gonna notice it, right? Because it's more than likely money I need to live on. But if I'm making $150,000 a month and $1,000 come up missing, unless I'm very diligent about my bank account, I'm probably not gonna notice right away. So I think we got to look at the totality of how much money he has to how much money was coming out of his account in 7 years.
Right. No, I agree with you when it comes to certain things. There are certain things I do not screw with no matter what. And that's one of them is the IRS. So when I verify a check that I write to the IRS, I can go online. It tells me a lot of them show you the check exactly as it's cashed. But if your bank doesn't do that, you still have a ledger. I'm going to look for okay, maybe this is my bank. I don't know. But my understanding is in my bank, they'll put the check, the amount of the money is, and I see the money, let's say $300. Okay, there's $300 there. But also it'll say check. And then it doesn't show me what the check number is. I will go and verify and say, wait, check 1275. Okay, 1270. Oh, that's the IRS check, because that's the one check anybody else can steal from me. The one group of people I do not want to screw with is the IRS. And everybody knows that, because even in death, the IRS gets you. Even in death.
True. But again, and I'm not arguing.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I'll give it to him.
And I'm not arguing on behalf of Steve Harvey. I just like to think of things logically and to cover all the bases for as much as I can. And it's very plausible that whoever's managing his money, maybe he just goes and looks and says, okay, that the balance that I have in there sounds about right to me, right? They say he makes about $45 million a year. I don't know what his expenses are. I'm sure there's a lot, but maybe he just looks at the bottom line. Maybe he doesn't fine tooth comb his account, because that's what most people hire an accountant for. Okay. So
right, to look for the loopholes and all that other stuff. That's what they do.
They find that's what you have an accountant, a bookkeeping, and all that to make sure that your checks and balances and everything's lined up and stuff. Maybe he doesn't do that, or maybe he does now, but maybe he didn't, because he figured, I'm paying somebody X amount of dollars to do that. I make the money, I deposit the money, and they manage the money, right? And it's not an unfair assumption that somebody you pay to manage your money will do that. Unfortunately, there's a lot of bad apples out there who are looking to get over. They study you and say, okay, well, he knows, roundabout how much money he has in, but over time, would he know if I'm ciphering some off from here or there, which a lot of people with that kind of money wouldn't, unless they are honed into their account.
So, my thing is lesson learned when it comes to money owned by to the government. Because one thing, what's one of the entities that you worry about, Demetra? Your student loan debt. That's why everybody's on pins and needles if Joe Biden is going to get rid of the student loan debt, because you owe that money, it's accruing interest, whatever. So you're going to pay attention to that. At least you should. Taxes. They're going to get you in taxes in life. They're going to get you in taxes in death. Taxes. And again, I don't know, maybe it's the way I was raised and stuff like that. My mom always told me, even if you do hire somebody, you audit the people that are taking care of your money. So the lesson that we're getting out of this is, even if you make extremes amount of money, the basic census is the same. At the end of the day, you're the one that's going to go to jail, regardless if they screw up or not.
Well, so when I was a personal banker, I would sit down with a lot of people. And some of the people I would sit down with would be people like your senior citizens, okay? Now, senior citizens, usually when they get up in age, they'll have somebody to help them with their checking, writing checks, and paying bills and stuff like that. And I would sit down with a lot of senior citizens who had family or whoever was supposed to help them, and they've completely stolen from them. And they didn't know, right? Because at that point, they're not in charge of paying the bills, things like that. And then they would get some sort of an alert, or somehow they would find out that they've been robbed blind. And I had a gentleman come in. He was like 89 years old at the time, in a wheelchair and everything. And his brother came in and, said that his niece was his caretaker, and she was supposed to be taking care of him. And they found out that she had stolen quite a bit of money from him over time, into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, where he basically had no money left. And so I sat down with him and went over his account, through his account. And I said, yeah, she wrote checks, because she was stealing the money by writing checks. So she stole money here and she stole money there, and it came out this. And so he would not have known that, because he trusted his niece to do the right thing. She did not do that.
Family member.
And so the point that I'm making is, a lot of times people just trust that people are going to do the right things, and, and they don't find out until they are hit with an insufficient fund notice and things like that. And I would tell people, from my point of view, is that there's nothing that can be done, because, you could prosecute her on the other end, but the bank can't do anything, because you gave her the responsibility of looking after your money. And so I would always just caution people, for one, make sure somebody you trust, and have somebody else put a second set of eyes to your money, right? Never just allow somebody to be free and loose with your car, just, unless it's like, your husband or your wife. But then again, you hear people complain about that. Oh, my husband or my wife, I told her to go to the store and she went and bought some other stuff, and, not really taking account of what's in the money. So if it's your money, it's your responsibility ultimately to make sure that it is allocated the right way.
Yeah. Or, here's a tip for a lot of people, and it works for me. I have a bank account that I live off of, it pays all my bills and stuff like that. Then I have my accounts that has my money, where paychecks come in. So let's say I'm in a scenario like that, because, I'm about 88 years old myself. So the only thing I would give somebody authorization for is the account that does all my living expenses, pays my rent, my food, my gas, whatever. And that's limited. There's only going to be a certain amount of money that's going to go in that account, and that's it. So if I stop eating and my lights are getting shut off, I have an indication of what's going on. But my investments and stuff like that is in another account that person there has no authorization to, maybe authorize somebody else to do that. I mean, there's all kinds of ways you can do things to protect yourself.
Well, the thing too is this, because as I said, as a personal banker, and I was in, other financial services like life insurance and things like that. One thing is when you're getting the job, or you're applying for the job, I should say, they run a background check and a credit check. Now, some people say, well, why do you have to run a credit check? Well, they need to run a credit check to make sure that you don't have a poor credit score and that you are in the habit of paying your bills and that you do not owe a bunch of people. Because for one, it illustrates financial responsibility. Okay, we're going to hire this person to work in our financial institution. They can personally illustrate that they are responsible with their own stuff. And the other thing is, if you are broke or you owe a lot of people, it might give you the propensity, if you will, to do nefarious things, like you're in charge of counting the money. You might, put some away, and steal it. And so some people, I've heard that argument. I don't think it's fair that they do a credit check. But if you think about it in the larger scheme of things, it is fair because they want to make sure that you can stand the test of temptation more than anything when you're in charge of a lot of money. And so I say that to say, if you are in a position of having a lot of money like a Steve Harvey, or you can afford to run a background check and a credit check on somebody who is handling your money outside of a firm, because most firms vet their people and make sure they can do that. Do those background checks and say, okay, well, you pay your bills on time. You don't have a bunch of creditors knocking on your door, and you don't have a criminal background of stealing money. So I think, right from what I see initially, I can see you working with my money, but there's a however. Make sure you do other things, but at least do that to make sure that their character, their credit character, and their criminal character, or the lack of a criminal record, is conducive to what you needed to do.
Right. Again, do you know how many people are disqualified from the military because they can't pass a background check or a credit check because you're dealing with, and that affects your security clearance. Everybody comes in on a secret, but if you, have a job where you need the top secret clearance and you have bad credit, can't be done because the propensity to that, my understanding is because you could be leveraged. That's why people are always questioning former President Trump. And notice Putin banned Hillary and all these Democrats and stuff, but he didn't ban Trump, even though they're at war right now over there. Now, why is he doing that? Does he have something on Trump or some money leverage or something? And, and that kind of stuff is very important because, like you said, it goes exactly with what you said. It should be able to where you're not desperate for cash flow or to do something nefarious. Donald Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, whatever his name was, that's the situation he was in. He would go to banks and say, okay, look, I need this. And they were like, well, you don't have the background. And he had to put up the collateral. And where did you get the collateral? Which is thus to the beginning of this podcast is what I was saying. This is how rich people move. Not saying that the 22 million was laundered, but I'm just saying this is how they move. It's very gangsta how a lot of these rich people move their money,
Well, and I will say this too, since we're on the conversation of money in this last 10 minutes or so. I mean, rich people leverage their money by not using their money, and that's actually by using credit. And so with that of Donald Trump, a lot of people would not finance him per se, give him money, but Deutsche Bank actually did. And they're like, yo, you owe us some money, by the way. So they trusted him, and that didn't really pan out. It's a different story for another day. But the best way to keep money is to use somebody else's money, and that's by credit. Making sure that your credit is in good standing so that you can get a loan, you can buy a house, finance a car, and all those type of things. I mean, you never realize how important credit is until you need to use it, right? And so that's actually what rich people do. It's one of the strategies that they use is they use somebody else's money, right? You think like somebody, let's say like Jay-Z, who has a bunch of money, do you think that he digs into his bank account and uses his $1 billion? No, he goes and he gets a loan from a bank, and they're like, damn, you got money in the bank, you got it. Yeah, we don't have a problem loaning to you. Of course, it's going to be with some interest tied to it, but rich people don't use their money. They use somebody else's money, do what they need to do to it. If they open a business, get a return on the investment, pay the money back, and then they keep what's left. That's how it works.
Right. You know, for those of you guys who aren't listening, you guys won't believe this, but Demetra is rolling in a 1953 Edsel. She refuses to refinance a car.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, speaking of which, I'm going to ride mine. It's not that quite that old, but I don't believe in buying new cars just because somebody else has a new car. Or I'm like, listen, as long as the engine is good and, you know, everything else is good, I'm going to keep that car literally until the wheels fall off and I can't put them back on there anymore. Because if one thing we don't realize is once a car leaves the lot, it depreciates. And if you are, I get it, if you're whatever line of business you're in, you might need to be impressive, have a nice car, whatever. I get it. But do you need to do that to the tune of going into debt? And I don't know if anybody has looked at new cars lately, but they're highly expensive. They're not like it used to be, where you can go and get you a used car or somebody can, but it just depends on what it is for, you know, a reasonable car payment. It's up there, right? And so if you don't need to get a new car, don't get a new car. Don't try to go out there and impress people. And I live in Texas. I want to say this about y'all drivers out here in Texas. I always say every other car is effed up. It has got a bumper missing. The hood is bent up. The sides are scratched up. And you know why? Because y'all can't drive. That is one of the reasons why I'm thinking about taking my black ass back to California, because in California, we care about our cars. Y'all heard of the old lady from Pasadena? We just be cruising.
No, we don't even have to worry about that. There's so much damn traffic here. Nobody's speeding.
But I'm like, these people cars out here. I'm like, what y'all, I mean, and I get it. People be dark now and swerving. I'm like, all of your cars look like crap. Not all, but a lot of them look like crap. It's crazy.
Right, you know, and you know, and just me for like you said about the credit, when you need to use the credit. I purchased a car just for the mere fact, even though I didn't need a car, to keep my credit thing going and, you know, make it stronger and stuff like that. It was an investment. I kept the car, whatever, and I still have the car today. And what, the car's 5 years old now, D?
About that, yeah.
Yeah, 15,000 miles on it in 5 years. That's unheard of. 15,000 miles is the average car usage in California. That's average
per year.
Yeah, per year.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. It's not, we say there's a lot. It's not what you make, it's what you keep. It's what you keep. There's some people who, like some people say, well, I make $100,000 a year. Yeah, you do. But how much of that do you keep? You're making $100,000 a year, but you have a $200,000 lifestyle a year. So it's like, it's nice to brag about, yeah, I got all this money. Oh, I got this good old job. I'm making it. But how much are you keeping? Okay. Do you have more work in your Gucci bags than you do in your bank account? Are you out there spending money to try to keep up with the Joneses? You know, you're trying to keep your Instagram lit by all the places that you're going? Or are you one of those people that can say, well, yes, like there's people out there who's making $30,000 a year and they have more to show for it than a person that's making $100,000 a year. So it's about how you manage your money. But first, you got to know what you're making and what it is doing, right? And I explained this to somebody not too long ago. So a lot of people don't know what their cash flow and their budget is. They're closely related. So a lot of times people might think, well, my net worth is good, right? Okay, great. Let's say you have $10,000 in the bank and you got, I don't know, $3,000 worth of bills every month. So you look at what you have in the bank, say, I got $10,000. Shoot, I got it. Okay, great. Now let's look at your cash flow. Does your cash flow justify the money that you're spending every month? So when I say cash flow, I mean the money that you got coming in every month. Is your cash flow keeping up with what you're spending? Because eventually your net worth is going to diminish. It is going to go down to zero if you don't have the cash flow, money coming in to justify your budget, the money that you're spending. So if you can just realize what cash flow is and realize how much cash flow you actually have, then you'll start to save more money, because you say, well, while I like that Gucci bag, and which I don't have Gucci anything, so I'm just using that example. while I like that Gucci bag, is the cash flow that I have coming in every month going to justify, not the net worth, not what I have in my bank account, is the cash flow going to justify me making that purchase? So always think about your cash flow when you're thinking about spending money.
Yeah, you know, one of the big problems, especially in the Black community, with these prosperity preachers and stuff, they have actually warped the mind of people to think that what they owe is what they're worth. And that isn't how it works. What you have in the bank is what you're worth. So if you are in debt, $500,000, I don't care if it's a student loan or whatever it is, I don't care. If you are in debt, $50,000, you're worth less than zero. That's the bottom line.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you owe money, then yeah, your net worth is, diminished. But I think most people owe something, whether it's a credit card or something. And so, I think you can kind of look at certain debts. A lot of times people don't count student loan in the larger scheme of things. If you're trying to buy a house or car or something like that, it's a different kind of debt, although you do owe it. But the point that I'm making is make sure you have the money coming in to justify you doing certain things. I'm talking about even your quality of life. A lot of times people will leave lights on and water running, taking that, 20-minute showers, which that's me, right? I'm not going to compromise on my shower, just something I'm going to do.
But you can get a quick shower head that the misting showers that'll save water and stuff. So that 20 minutes that you take, you can actually do 40 minutes and still get the 20-minute rate.
Yeah, I guess the point that I'm making is, even the things that you have to pay for every month, make sure that you're being wise with those things. Do you need to have the water running as long as you do when you're doing the dishes? Do you need to have the heat on to 80 degrees, or can you put some clothes on and kind of, minimize the time that you use the heat? And I say that to say is because a lot of times we think, well, the things that I have to do, like pay light bill, gas bill, phone bill, food, I'm just going to do those things. But especially in these times, yeah, you may have the money, but that money dissipates when things go up, like inflation, the price of food, gas and stuff. And so I'm one of those people, and I'll tell you a couple things that I don't skimp on is my showers. I'm going to be clean, okay? But I'm mindful of that. Like, okay, get your ass out already. You done washed everything. Get out, okay? The water feels good. Get out. Now, when I go, I don't compromise on that. And I don't like to compromise on when I go to the store. But as of late, I have thought about, okay, do you really need that at the store? Do you really need that? And then I really have a conversation with myself. Okay, no, you don't really need it. Put it back, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm saying you got to think about those things, even in your everyday spendings, flipping on the light switch. Okay, you ain't been in that room in 20 minutes. Why is it on, right? Turn it off. That type of stuff.
Has anybody noticed that Demetria has a black background? That's how tight she is with the money.
Well, I've been accused of being tight with the money, and I'm not tight with the money. I've always been very frugal because I know what it's like not to have money. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so I never want to get in a position to where I'm asking people, hey, you got $1? Hey, but my mom and dad always say, God bless the child as God is own. And so in order for me to have my own, I need to be responsible over what I have and not let my assets, if you will, my money bleed out by leaving a water faucet on, or by leaving a light on, or television that's watching me and I'm not. That's the other thing I don't understand too. Let me do that before I get to you. A lot of times people be watching TV and on their phone is like, if you're not going to watch the TV, just turn it off until you can focus, because you are using electricity that you don't need to if you're not going to watch the TV. So anyway, Donovan, what say you before we get out of here?
Well, it's kind of funny that you say that. Excuse the noise in the background, but this is the time, even though price has gone up, when you say that you're frugal with your money, I'm frugal with my money. Now, even though the prices have gone up, because we are the way we are, yeah, I don't want to spend the money, but I do have the money now because I have saved and prepared for this. When the drought comes, I think that's in the Bible. When the drought comes, this is where you're supposed to swoop in and get these deals or whatever, and be prepared for the deals. And, when everything is good, everybody's spending money, whatever, you and I are usually saving our money.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not, I think we need to redefine how we look at people who are frugal and stop calling them cheap, because when the lean times come, and we are in the lean times, it sure is nice to say, well, damn, I can at least pay this light bill. I could pay my car note or whatever instead of saying, damn, it's time to pay it. I'm one of those people. And listen, this is how you think about it. We're going to go over just a little bit. It's all how you think about things. Boy, I tell you, I want to hop up and down and spin around when I think about it, because there used to be a time when I would pay my bills and I'm like, oh, I got to pay the bills. But now I'm like, yes, I paid the bills. Hallelujah. I had the money to pay the bills. I didn't have to call the light company and say, could you give me an extension? I paid all the light bill. I ain't have to call the Verizon and say, listen, I know I said, but can you give me a little bit more time? Nah, I paid the whole phone bill. I don't go to the grocery store and say, ooh, it's going to be beans and rice again. I can have some, what did Biggie say, some steak with my beans and rice if I ate that type of stuff. So it's all about how you look at things. And if things aren't good now, just tighten up on how you think and how you spend. And then when it comes down to the first of the month, you got to pay the bills. You say, thank God I had it to pay. See what I'm saying? That was a sermon, early sermon, a sermon. I know it's Saturday, but I'm just saying, I get excited when I think about where I was to where I am now. And we're not just with money, because I don't have a lot of it, but I have more than I did. And God willing, I'm going to, keep making money. But I get excited when I think about the times where there, I didn't have it to pay my rent. And I was like, listen, can y'all give me a little bit more time? I know y'all about to send me that 3-day pay or quit notice, but I'm just letting you know, there was times. It wasn't a lot, but there was times. And so I'm grateful that I'm not experiencing that now. And I just can't, I get excited about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, Steve Harvey, like I said, I give him all the credit in the world. I believe he's a smart man. I don't, take away. I don't like his BSing and stuff that he does with relationships. I wouldn't take advice from him in regards to relationships, but I believe he's a smart man. And unfortunately, in our community, the system is rigged to prey on us to take our money, because either we're geared to be an athlete, an entertainer, whatever, and you're bringing in all that lumps of money. And because there is no financial literacy actually taught at home within our communities, we get taken advantage of. So big up to Steve Harvey for admitting, because a lot of people won't even admit they lose that kind of money. Big up to him for admitting for losing that. Could it happen? Yes, it happened. It happens to the best of us. So learning lesson.
Absolutely, y'all. So thank y'all so much for being here. We love and appreciate y'all for being here with us on this Saturday on this podcast. And we should have said it at the top of the show, but if you guys can and you will, please donate to the show. We have a Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal, and you can become a member of the channel. That always helps too. And if not, please like and subscribe to the channel, like the video. Every little bit that you do help with helping us to continue bringing forth great information and messages to the people. So anyway, we will see you guys on Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. I don't know what we're going to talk. Central time, 5 p.m. Central time. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but we're going to talk about something interesting. And guess what? You guys get to be included, because on Sunday, the viewers get a chance to have their voice heard, because we read each and every comment, because we feel like you should be heard as well. So you guys,
know what? I think Sunday we should talk about how I got beat up, and how our elders, the power structure and doing something like that. But we'll talk about that after the show.
Okay. All right, y'all. So we'll see y'all later. Peace.